You know when you're online shopping and you see those product photos with that perfect white background? We're going to show you how to do that today.
Yeah.
What's up guys? Corey here from Golden Press Studios, back at you with another tutorial. What we're doing today is not your standard screen printing type of tutorial. It's actually based on photography. So we had a client reach out to us recently and they wanted some e-commerce product photos for their website. We actually designed their shirts, we printed them, they look sick. Now we're gonna take some photos for them, and I wanted to take you guys along on that journey of how to take those awesome photos where it's just a nice flat lay of the shirt, you have a really perfect white background. It just looks amazing on your web store showing photos of your product. Supplies that you're gonna need for this project is gonna be a camera, you're gonna need some white paper or a poster board, you're gonna need some decent lighting. Optional would be a tripod or an overhead rig, and lastly you'll need a computer with some editing software to edit your photos. What I'm going to be working with today is Lightroom and Photoshop. So that's everything you'll need to take these product photos. I guess we'll just head downstairs and kind of show you how to do that. First things first, we need some white background for our e-commerce photo for these product shots. What I'm going to be using is this lovely white paper. I'm just gonna pull off a big chunk of it. So grab your snippers right here, and I'm gonna just cut it off. I like to have as much space as I can for these, just, you know, you never know. Boom! So, I'm gonna just take this white paper into the other room where we're doing the photos. Just gonna lay it down, try not to get too many creases in it. Try not to make it too dirty. So I got some gaff tape right here. Just gonna tape down the edges so the paper is tight against the ground and just kind of flat, and it's not gonna move around for me. I'm using this white paper. It's what we have in our studio. We purchased that big roll of white paper, and so we just have it. It's useful. You can pick it up off of Amazon or something. Also, if you don't have white paper, you could go to Hobby Lobby or some craft store, and I'm pretty sure they have rolls that you could just get a sheet from them, or poster board, that also works. You can even probably find that at CVS if there's not a craft store around you. We got our paper on the ground, and now I'm going to show you kind of the setup that I'm using. You don't necessarily need a tripod or an overhead rig. To take these photos, you can just straight up stand over top of the white paper or whatever and take some straight down photos. I'm using this setup kind of behind me just because I want it to be the exact same photo, same height, same distance every time. The setup that we're using right here is we have a couple random light stands from Amazon and just a couple random pieces. We kind of Frankensteined this. One really useful piece for an overhead rig is a super clamp with a ball head that you can mount your camera on. Super clamp, super useful. It can kind of grip onto any pole, essentially. Also, I know maybe the setup might look fancy, but it's not as fancy as you might think. We actually have one of the corners gaff taped together because we just don't have all the pieces. Just what we got, we're just using what we got, and that's a big thing I want to just encourage you guys with, is use whatever you have. If all you have are your arms and a camera, then use that. If you do have access to a couple stands, use that. If you have the funds to buy it, buy them. If you're gonna be doing this often, I do recommend getting some type of overhead rig setup because it just makes the process more consistent and quicker and easier. Well, we got our lighting all set up now. I'm actually using two lights. I'm using them because we have them. We do a lot of video shoots and different things, and so we needed to get these lights, and so now we got them and I'm gonna use them for this. I have one light set up that's our biggest light. It's essentially over top of it and it's kind of on one end, and then at my second light is shooting just kind of from the other side of it, just to make sure there's no shadows on the shirt at all. Maybe you don't have any of that stuff. That is not a problem. All of this stuff can be done outside on a well-lit day. I do recommend that the sun is not 100% bright and aggressive. That might give you too harsh of a look and you might come across some aggressive shadows on your things. If it's kind of an overcast day, not like it's like a thunderstorm, but that there's just clouds in the sky kind of blocking the sun, that's gonna give you some nice even light on the product that you're shooting. One of the lights we're using, we actually have a couple of them. We have this big light that it just works really well. A couple of these guys, they're from Amazon. They're like 60 bucks. They're affordable, they're cheap, and they really do get the job done. I use those for most things for a while. We've used them for a lot of professional photo shoots and video shoots, and they work like a dream. So, you know, it doesn't have to be some crazy $1,000 light. So the products that we're shooting today are these, we have a few different t-shirts for a brand that we printed the shirts at our shop. We're taking some e-commerce photos for their website. You want your product to look as perfect as it can. And since we're in a screen printing shop, I'm just gonna run it through the conveyor dryer just to let it kind of work out any little wrinkles that it's maybe acquired. If you're not in a screen printing shop, I mean, ironing this shirt or getting a steamer, anything you can do just to make your shirt not have wrinkles and make it look as pristine as possible. Another little tip, I'm using the small shirts and I'm doing that just so the design looks as big as possible. The camera settings that I'm using are f6.3. I'm shooting at 1/80th of a second. That's not crazy fast, but with as much lighting and I'm using a tripod, that's not a problem. I'm also doing a 2-second delay timer. And so just to give you a quick rundown of what those settings mean, maybe you've never used a DSLR camera before, how those settings work. I'm choosing to do f6.3. The higher the number of on your f-stop or your aperture, that kind of allows more things in the photo to be in focus. And I want the entire shirt to be in focus for this. I'm not using autofocus for this shot because I'm on a tripod or an overhead rig, and I switched it to manual focus and I just kind of pulled that ring on my camera. It has a focus peaking thing, so it tells me exactly when I've nailed that perfect focus. If you're taking these by hand, I definitely recommend you use autofocus. It's gonna help you a lot, but I just don't want there any weird potential for the focus to be jumping around. Everything is locked off where it's gonna be, so I don't have to worry about that. Again, I said I was using the 2-second delay for the photo, and that's just so I can take the photo, remove my hand, and that there won't be any camera shake. If you're doing handheld, I'd recommend having a quicker shutter speed. So you'll have less opportunity for motion blur in your shots. Because the goal for these, beautiful, crispy, clean photos. Also, one other quick, tasty little tip. I'm using this pencil since I'm on paper, and I'm gonna mark just a few tiny little marks around this shirt. So since I'm doing multiple shirts and multiple sides of the shirts, I wanna make sure my shirt's in the same place for every photo. Well, we got our shirt laid out flat, looking beautiful. We got our perfect white background, we got our overhead rig, we got our lighting, and we have our camera all the way set up. Only thing left to do for this part is just take the photos. Got my 2-second timer on there. I'm gonna snap away at these photos and we'll get, both sides of the shirt and move on to the next couple shirts. We switched out the paper to a black paper. And the reason why I did that is because we're actually photographing a white shirt. And a white shirt on white paper, that's not going to be easy to kind of separate the shirt from the background. And since when we get into the computer and we do some editing, we're actually gonna remove the shirt off the background. Just went with black paper that has good contrast, and that's just gonna be, it's just gonna make it a lot easier to remove the shirt from the background when we're doing that. All right, we got our photos taken. Now we just need to throw them in the computer and do some editing for them, so we'll head upstairs and do that. So we are over here at my good old desk. Got my trusty camera that I took our photos with. I'm gonna eject that SD card, put it in my computer, and we're gonna take the photos off of that SD card and put it in the old hard drive. And now we are gonna import the photos that we took into Lightroom. I'm gonna do that by hitting Command-Shift-I, or you can go up to File and import them. Go into Little Bow Wow, that's my hard drive, and going in there, this is the folder that I put those photos in. It's gonna kind of load them up, and then I'm gonna import them into Lightroom. As you can see, my computer moves at 1 million miles an hour. You're shocked about how quickly this is working. I'm gonna hit import. We got all of our photos in here. And what I'm gonna do in Lightroom is some quick editing, just to kind of make it easier for me to remove the background with them, as well as making sure the shirt colors look the best, how I want them to look. We're gonna go over to develop, and we're gonna crop this photo just so it's all the way in the white. I just unchecked the little lock thing so I can crop it to kind of however I need it to be. And I'm gonna straighten it out just a little bit. That looks good. And I'm gonna kind of do that for the next few photos, just since we're in the cropping mood. So we have all the photos cropped down just so any of the excess part of the picture was out of the shot. Now I'm just gonna kind of go through a couple little edits on these. The goal is to make these shirts look essentially how they look in person. So I'm just gonna tweak a couple of the values and probably make the whites a little whiter as well. So let's just do that real quick. I got all my settings over here on this little right side, and I'm gonna actually drop the contrast a little bit because I feel like this shirt is a little more gray in person than just like a lighter gray. Bring my highlights up. Yeah, I like how that looks with the shadows up a little bit. Like I said, I'm gonna bump the whites, grow to the clarity, and clarity kind of boosts that detail a little bit, which is always nice. I pump my light, and I like to pull the darks down. And I feel like this is starting to look pretty accurate to what the shirt actually looks like, and we have nice good contrast from the shirt to the white area. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. And actually what I'm gonna do is I'm going to copy all those settings, and I'm gonna hop over to the back side of the shirt, since it's the same shirt, and paste it, and it'll do the exact same edit over top of this. So, you know, you go back and forth, and it's gonna look the same. So those ones are done. I'm just gonna select both of those, Command-Shift-E for export, and I'm just gonna export those two to my desktop. This is the white one on the black background. And again, we're just doing kind of simple edits on these just to make them really pop. And so with this design, we did also halftoning on this, kind of to make it look like there's like this torn paper effect. And I want to highlight that, so I'm actually going to grab this adjustment brush, make it a bit, I have it feathered out a little bit, and I'm just going to paint a little line over that area. And if you want to see where you've painted, you can hit O and it'll highlight it in red. And I think I'm going to boost the whites on that, boost the clarity, maybe even the sharpness a bit. I just want you to be able to see that there's those little holes and little halftone lines going on. What if I even, yeah, there we go. Boosting my shadows a little bit helps. Maybe dropping the contrast. I just really want to make it so you can tell that there's that paper texture going on there. You don't want to overdo it with this stuff because sometimes like your mask area that you painted on there, it'll kind of show up and it'll look weird. Just a couple little tweaks, and I think I like how that looks. And as you can see, it's just so much more clear than it was looking before. Oh, another fun thing to do just to make sure your edit, you didn't over edit, is hitting that reset button and then Command Z and kind of seeing where you came from to make sure you didn't overdo it. And sort of with that same concept that I was doing, this is gonna, with that masking in, this is gonna help me out for that next step. And I'm just gonna paint around the shirt in that black area. And what I'm gonna do is darken up that whole background area. So when we're cutting this shirt out of its background, it'll just make it easier on us. We will, again, copy those settings and paste it on top of this guy, the back of the shirt. That looks pretty good, and I'm gonna hit it one more time. I didn't copy the masking over to this photo because it's a different photo and the masking would show up in the wrong place. And so I'll just, you know, essentially redo that. So we are actually now going to move over to Photoshop. If you wanted to just be done at this point, that is an option. If you're just working like this gray shirt right here, I mean, that white background looks pretty perfect, but I like to do one more little extra step in Photoshop and make sure that it's this perfect 100% white background. We are opening up Photoshop now, and we will do a couple little edits over in there with these shirt photos. I'm gonna go down to Create, New, and make a new document. I think I'm just gonna do this 10" by 10" 300 PPI file. That's fine, it's just a square file, and square is a good shape if you're working with these product photos. Let's just go and grab these photos, swing them over, and drop them in that document. We're just gonna hit enter on all of them as they come in here. Right now, all these are smart objects, and if you want to get rid of their background, you're gonna want to make them not a smart object, and I can just do that to all of them actually right now. So I'm just gonna select that bottom one, hold shift, select the top. I'm gonna do kind of like right click or the 2-finger click, and rasterize layers. So now I can easily edit them and go back and select this one. And as you can see, you know, it did look nice, but when you contrast it to a perfect white, you can tell that that color is not 100% white. All right, so now we are gonna remove the background from this shirt so it just has a perfectly nice and clear white background. I went over and I grabbed my wand tool, and I'm just gonna select, doing a pretty good job at selecting it. I'm gonna hold shift and click this other area, and it just did an even better job at selecting it. I'm just gonna hit delete, and right out the gate, we've pretty effectively removed it. We got a little mess over there. I'm gonna, you know, grab that little guy and just delete it. And there's a couple little tiny areas that could maybe be cleaned up. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go to my eraser, and you know, I'm gonna have it a pretty small and I'm gonna give it a little bit of a feathering effect so I don't, you know, mess it up. And honestly, just grabbing your eraser and going in, I'm just using my trackpad here, and it does a really fine job at just cleaning up that edge and not making it, that is just, yeah, just cleans up that edge, makes it look good. Looking really good. And hit Command T and place it right in the center. I think that's a good size. And now we'll just duplicate this process for the next couple shirts. Now we're gonna hop over to the one with the black background, the white shirt, black background. And how we're gonna do this, we're gonna just, again, select everything like we were with the wand, hold shift, kind of refine our selection, and delete that. And there's a few areas that we missed, but really the big problem with this is that there's this kind of weird black line around the whole shirt, and it just makes it not look natural. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here and hover over the little box where the layers panel is. I'm gonna hold Command and click, and it's gonna kind of have the little marching ants all the way around this of what is selected in this image. I'm gonna go up to select, and I'm going to go to modify and hit contract, and I'm gonna tell it to contract by 2 pixels will probably get it done, maybe 3. Let's push 3 and see what it does. We're gonna hit OK, and then what we're gonna do is we're going to kind of do that double right click thing, and we're gonna hit select inverse, and then hit delete, and as you can see that just cleaned up that whole section. And we still have those couple spots that we missed, and that's not a problem. We are gonna go over and use our eraser tool yet again and just clean up those little edges and any other little spots that got missed. Kind of review them. I think they look pretty good. You know, they look good for a nice website. You can scroll through them, and they all look fresh. And you can, boom, email those to your client, upload them to your website. You are good to go. So there you have it. Beautiful, amazing product photos for your website or your client's website. You know, and it's not that challenging. Something I just want to let you guys know or just remind you is, I know in this video we used a lot of maybe fancier equipment at times, but honestly all of this can be done with your cell phone, with a poster board, with the sunlight, you know, whatever you have available to you, you can use and you can get this stuff done with. Even if you don't even have a computer, you can edit these photos on your phone and crop them and get the job done. But I hope that this was useful for you. I hope you learned something in this process. Maybe you're a screen printing shop and you want to offer this as an extra service to future clients. Maybe you're just starting a clothing company and you're trying to figure out how to get those really nice photos for your website. This is a great little thing to do that's just going to up the value and the quality of the content that you're putting out. Keep learning, keep growing, and take some awesome photos, make some amazing shirts. We'll see you there in the next video. Peace.